What's going on, guys? We are taking a look at the NHL betting market for January the 14th. Fat guy, 680 bets on the Islanders-Rangers game. It opened at minus 106 for the Rangers, still at minus 106. The juice has gone down a little bit for the Islanders to minus 104. 48% of bets are on the Rangers money line, 40% of the money on the Rangers money line.
One quick note here. The juice just went down.
So they would have opened it at minus 106, minus 106, but then as the market matures, it looks like they bring that line down to take a little bit less juice. So the
Never seen
equilibrium minus 105. They've done it. The NBA, they did that to open up OUs at the start of the year for some games. And I've noticed it as well. We see it here in hockey. If we went over all the numbers, which we will have more data on later on, we could probably see when they maybe make that change and why they make those adjustments. Outside of that, though, there's not a lot to talk about with that money line market.
No, that seems that's about right. Slight advantage to the Rangers, but then they're offered a better price. One reason they probably do this is early bird gets the worm, but not always. Is maybe they're worried about some of the early bettors, considering these is the first game for all of them. So don't forget, guys who do modeling are probably at the top end are much more accurate than the book itself, and that's where the book gleans its information. Is let those guys beat them for a little bit, and then make sure they beat everyone else for a lot. On to the OU.
I opened at 5.5. It's been bet up to 6 goals. The juice for the under is at minus 114 currently, which is interesting since that puck line or the over-under moved up 1 goal. 78% of bettors are on the over. However, 88% of the money on the under, despite that goal total moving up half a goal.
Well, the biggest question here is how much is that half a goal worth? Do you know what I mean? Because you add that juice. I feel like half a goal is worth a lot more than that, but we're going to have to make some inferences here, and we're going to have to learn as we go along. And this is one of those things where you just put a question mark and you try and revisit with a bunch of other samples to figure out what's going on. Because 5.5 to 6 seems significant, but then again, it's only 2 more. It's 6 more win combinations, but 4-2, 4-2, 5-1, 5-1, 6-0, 6-0. So I guess I get then those are push ones. So. It's something interesting to keep an eye out for as far as how they move these things and why. So this is the first one that would pop off, I guess, for today's games.
To me, this next market is fascinating, fat guy, and I don't even know how we can read into this, but the Rangers opened up as 1.5 point favorites on the puck line at plus 227, but the line has shifted to now be plus 1.5 at minus 275 for the Rangers. So I don't even know. Like, obviously, there is going to be math that we're going to be able to find out as the season goes along. The money line hasn't moved. This has moved. I guess really the only thing you can do is compare the juice. So it looks like the line moved a little bit in favor of the Rangers, the Islanders were minus 268 and the Rangers are minus 275.
Can we make an inference then on this, Big Rye, that maybe it's one of two questions. Like the Rangers have a better chance of keeping it close than the Islanders do from what they first thought, or maybe that there's value on the Islanders now because this is so weird. You go from a 1.5 point favorite to a 1.5 point goal. That's like 10 points the other way, just with massive juice switching. Yeah. Sorry, we've never seen anything like this. Like, because we're new to this too. That's so weird. So weird. What if you got the middle on both of these, right? I mean,
well, actually, like a middle on both. Let's say if you got the Islanders minus 268, then you get the Rangers minus 275. I don't think there's a ton of value there.
No.
Like we're gonna have to figure as we get more data, we're gonna be able to figure this out a lot more. But right now, for you and I, like this is just it's fascinating because we don't know where the bet percentages came down because it could have been on either side. We don't know.
Yeah.
The money could have came down on either side. We don't.
We'd have to inspect the line movement.
Yeah, there's no way for us to know exactly what side the money came down. We could figure out the bet percentages, but this is just a weird one that in the future, we're going to have an idea of what it means and what would be a good idea. For now, though, we're looking at this like it's Mandarin. Like we don't know.
I did take Mandarin for a few weeks. Not successful. Another quick theory. Islanders. Does that mean that there's possibly value on the Islanders at -104? Is there a correlation there? That's what we're going to want to find out. On to the Sabres Caps.
The Capitals are the favorites on the road. They opened at -133. They've been bet down to -127, despite receiving 66% of the bets and 87% of the money. Fat Guy, looks like there might be some slight value on the Sabres with a very, very small reverse line movement, even though there is only 491 bets on this game so far.
That's a problem, though, is the market factors aren't as strong considering the probably low handle and very low bet volume. Whereas NFL game, you know that there's probably more dollars wagered per person per game, in addition to a lot higher volume. That's why our market plays are probably a lot stronger in those scenarios. But we know that going ahead of time. That's why we're doing a video and not a prediction video. But I have to jump ahead to Puckline because the interesting thing is the Capitals are bigger favorites to, I guess they're smaller favorites, reverse line movement there as well. We'll get to it. Go to the over-under.
OU open at 6, still at 6. Juice has favored the under to -113 compared to the -104, which it opened at. 22% of bettors on the under. However, 66% of the money on the under has helped push that juice in favor of the under.
Yeah, and this is probably a lateral movement. I mean, more juice on the under, more money on the under. Does that just make sense? Just a bit. And, it probably doesn't cross too much of a threshold. I doubt that this 66% is betting too much money on the under, but it was significant enough to move it. What's that, 7 points? Or, sorry, 9 points, rather. 1/13. So, I mean, that is something, but it's not too much. So.
And then the Sabres puck line +1.5 at -211. It's moved up to +1.5, -217. 73% of bettors has helped push that line up. Unfortunately, we do not have the money percentages, which means there's probably not a lot of bets placed on this puck line.
A lot of money, at least. That's what got me confused. I saw the 100%, so I'm like, I can't be too reactive because we don't actually know that figure. So the Capitals are bigger underdogs to win by 2 points, which I guess is congruent with them being smaller favorites to win the game. As complicated as that actually sounds when you kind of look at it from a stand-back perspective. So perhaps this is reverse line movement on the Sabres, or maybe it's just a slight bit of balancing act. Where these are two of the weird. The puck line is one of the weirdest markets I could possibly come up with. So it is essentially a spread, but just considering the value of a goal, the value of goal is just so much more than a point in football, or especially a point in basketball. So that's something we got to learn. It's a big question. What is the value of a goal? And we better figure that out by the end of this year.
Next up, we have Bruins Devils, 453 bets so far. Devils open +124. They've been bet up to +164. 33% of bets and 33% of the money on the Devils. So a pretty congruent market, pretty even.
Yeah, that's a big shift, though, from an opener, it feels like, in hockey. Because it's not like, I don't know, maybe there's some news that came out, I'm not sure, that's negative towards the Devils. But -139, -183 is interesting. It is a lateral movement, though. You're getting 2-1 on the money. Does kind of make sense. Only 453 bets, but I feel like there is a little bit higher of a handle on this. So something interesting to point out. As far as the over-under is concerned, Big Rye?
It opened at 6. It's been bet down to 5.5. The under, though, at 6 was -143, and now it's 5.5, -109. So that might be like like the line might have not moved at all, considering the juice to juice.
Because we don't know what the value of a goal is yet.
Yeah,
like that's the one thing.
And then the under, 15% of bets help push that under, but 82% of the money. So that's a very interesting market there, Fat Guy.
So they are incentivizing you to take the over, but this might be one of those juice balancing games. Hockey's I wouldn't have thought that this goal factor makes the math. I know maybe the math just seemingly seems more difficult because we're so used to doing football experimenting, let's call it. But this is interesting as well because this very well could be a lateral movement, like Big Riot said. Because is half a goal worth, what is that? 30.
Essentially like 7%.
Yes, exactly. Is that what it means? So we're going to have to do some more homework to find out, but that's how the market shifted so far.
And then the puck line, Devils plus 1.5 at minus 204 at home. Plus, they're currently plus 1.5, minus 168. So that line has moved in favor of the Bruins on that puck line. And the Bruins have 30% of the bets on the puck line. 61% of the money, however, is on their puck line, anywhere from plus 177 to plus 151.
We can infer that it's probably relatively congruent between that and the money line move, because obviously this is positive for the Bruins. So the one interesting thing though is when you look at the two markets, right? Like if the OU is 5.5 and then the puck line is minus 1.5, like to get a stack to get both of them, the scoring has to be limited, right? Like they're
looking at like a 3-0, 4-1 Bruins win is what all these markets are telling us.
It's just tough. Like the one good thing is it's scoring is going to be populated very interestingly. So that's one thing that this data is really going to provide. So something to look forward to, something that we'll have a better handle on next year as we learn along with you, our viewers.
Next up, we have the Hurricanes taking on the Red Wings. Red Wings plus 173 up to plus 191. 46% of bettors on the Red Wings. Only 4% of the money on the Red Wings. Fat guy.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, only 529 bets. And I believe I looked at hockey futures at a cursory glance, and I believe the worst one was the Red Wings to win the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
So that usually has a negative correlation in returns to popularity. So, a truthful correlation, more or less. So 173, 191 makes sense, but it doesn't seem like there's a ton of money on this game if I were to make a guess, just because this shift would be a little bit more dramatic, I would imagine.
When I looked at the Stanley Cup futures, the Red Wings were 214 to 1. So essentially saying 214 seasons would have to be played, and the Red Wings would theoretically win one Stanley Cup in those 214 iterations of this season.
Mind you, a 500 to 1 team made the Stanley Cup playoffs. So as Ellie Goulding says, anything can happen. So it's Stanley Cup Finals, rather.
Shout out to Ellie Goulding. The OU for this game, 6.5. Bet down to 6. 61% of bettors on the under. 3% of the money on the under.
Okay. Now this is an RLM. This is a reverse line movement for sure. So everyone's betting you over, and then you move it half a goal down. And the juice, I mean, it's something, but it's for half a goal. I doubt it's anything.
Well, I want to compare it to this, because this market just above, if you compare these two, this one went from 6 down to 5.5, minus 143 to minus 109. This seems like it might be some sort of like even line movement between these two numbers.
Maybe.
But there's no way that this all lines up. So this is definitely a heavy line movement for that half a goal.
Because it's de-incentivized to take the under. It's minus 112 to minus 116. I don't know. Something's going on here. I want to see how this matures. This is the biggest question mark I've seen so far in NHL betting. Very, very, very interesting.
On to the Hurricanes Red Wings puck line. Red Wings open plus 1.5, minus 151. Bet down to plus 1.5, minus 137. Only 5% of bets and 4% of the money is on the Red Wings puck line. It seems like the Red Wings, despite being very, very huge underdogs, might be very, very undervalued starting this season.
Well, they're taking, like, all of this looks bad for the Red Wings. Like, they could just shift this market way more and probably garner more interest on them, but they're not going to. It doesn't look like they're going to. And it's not nothing too. They're not that unaware. Like, look where they opened this at 173. We just went over it. They set the lines for the Stanley Cup odds. They know the Red Wings are, like, you know what I mean? Like, why not just open this at Hurricanes minus 260 and call it a day? But they didn't. They're going to play this little market game. So that does make it interesting as far as Red Wings go in all of these markets. And I would imagine that an under does favor the Red Wings as well. That's usually bad teams are it's harder for them to score. So usually there's a positive correlation between underscoring and the dog.
Next up, let's look at the Blue Jackets Predators line. 416 bets. Preds open minus 117, bet down to minus 115, which is just the juice adjusting like the first game on the money line that we talked about. 66% of bettors, however, only 18% of the money is on the Preds money line.
Another interesting one. When you're just adjusting the, you said, as you had mentioned, they're just adjusting the opening juice. Why did they adjust it? I guess the 2 points to try and garner a little bit more with the Predators, but I'm just surprised there's no line shift. Only 416 bets. Market factors aren't as strong. I get that. So it's just something to say. Maybe they're expecting more money to come in on the Predators as the day progresses, but who knows? And there's also bad news coming out of the Blue Jackets, from what I understand. I don't know if it's going to have a market factor though.
The OU open at 5.5, still at 5.5. Juice has moved in favor of the over. 69% of bets, 86% of bets on the over. So this is fairly congruent.
Yeah, that does make sense. It's like I said, the volume is so low that there is a possibility that it's just a low amount of money, so that they can take what little exposure it is compared to what the actual closing market will be.
The puck line for this game, Preds -1.5 at +206. It's been bet up to +219 despite receiving 91% of the money, but only 15% of the bets.
91% of the money is on the Predators, 15% of the bets. Predators to win by 2 goals. So maybe the pros prefer, this is just another speculation, the pros prefer the price of the puck line over the money line perhaps, because it's very lopsided, or maybe they like it's just weird. It's weird. Oh, they like the price of maybe they like the Blue Jackets, the price of Blue Jackets to win, but they like the price of the Predators to win by 2. I know that's confusing, but this puck line is just going to be an interesting one and a wild ride for the whole evening here.
On to the next game, rather. Flames, Jets, 529 bets. This open at -106 on both sides. Flames have been bet up to -120 because they have received 57% of bets, 89% of the money. I'll throw in the puck line as well. This is one of those ones that has flip-flopped. So I think it's important to look at the corresponding juice. So they've gone from Flames -264 to Jets -245. So favoring the Jets on the puck line. 62% of bettors, 42% of the money, though, is on the Flames puck line.
Yeah, and then the Jets were less likely to win by 2 as well than the Flames are now. So I would call this reasonably significant action on the Flames. This makes the most sense out of everything I've seen so far today.
And then the OU for this game, 5.5. Opened the under opened 5.5 -112. It's currently 5.5 at +101. 7% of bets. However, 99% of the theoretical money put on these early 529 bets is on the under.
I mean, how much of it is? It's only 529 bets. Like I said, really immature market. Perhaps it does seem. I mean, they are incentivizing the under here with that juice shift. I mean, to 101. But I mean, how much is this 99% to 1 really accurate? Because 93% of the volume is on the over. So I think these numbers perhaps aren't derived properly. So I'm not going to put too much stock in that.
On to the next game, Sharks, Coyotes. Coyotes -118 to -126. 69% of bettors, 45% of the money.
Yeah, it is technically a reverse line movement here, because the one with getting less money is getting a worse price now. So that doesn't exactly make sense. But again, it's 453 bets, and some of those openings are pretty early, because this might have been hanging around for some time. So news could have changed. So this might not be like a true indication, because it's the first time these teams have played this season. So there also is that possibility.
And the over-under still at 5.5 from open till current, but the juice has moved towards the under, despite only receiving 33% of bets and 19% of the money.
This is another one that's indicative too. Like, I don't know. I feel like this is more of a stronger factor to me, is the reverse line movement on the under, because it's, because this is one where it's like impartial, like squares can be divided on some marginal teams, but the OU, they tend to like higher scoring games. Like, that's just more like that's just more inclusive. They're more likely to band together on that one. So that's why I kind of like these OU these OU markets are a little bit interesting when there's reverse line movement, such as there is on this one.
There's nothing to glean from the puck line from this game, so we're just going to skip over it and move on to the Canucks Oilers money line. 416 bets. The Oilers open, one of those teams, Oilers probably open at minus 112. And then they have been, these lines are all mixed up. Let me just quickly fix these lines. For Edmonton, I'll just take a look and see what they actually are. So the Canucks opened at plus 103. The Edmonton Oilers opened at minus 112. Currently, the Canucks are plus 113. The Oilers are minus 125. So the line has shifted towards the Oilers. 58% of bets on the Oilers. 86% of the money has helped move that line in favor of the Oilers. And both teams are playing technically their backup goalies for this game.
I guess that maybe that is indicative that the backup's stronger than the Oilers. That's, again, pure speculation. Also, the Oilers probably perhaps the better team at home, which could be inferred, but they lost last night's game, so maybe this is a revenge scenario where there is some weight put into that. But it is a lateral movement considering the amount of money and the volume of bets. And
then the OU for this game, it opened at 6, still at 6. But the juice has pushed heavily on the over from minus 103 to minus 134. 96% of bets as of now are on the over, Fat Guy.
Well, that makes sense because it's 96% of the volume. We can only infer that the money is probably somewhere like 70, 78%. That would be my guess. But again, that's just a guess as it is, because why else would they move it to, and that's a lot of juice there. The win rate has to be increasingly large to hit the over on this. So I'd imagine that the money is considerable and that they don't want to take exposure. So this does make sense.
And then the puck line juice has adjusted since the open. And then 86% of bettors have been on the Canucks puck line at plus 1.5. But 97% of the money is on the Oilers puck line, despite that juice not moving.
That's so weird, eh? I guess it's kind of like how the earlier ones where it was minus 106 on both sides, I believe it was the Rangers game. How this one is just going to move down. Like, it just moves down 6 points on one side. So, I mean, I would imagine the puck line is bet quite a bit less, but this does seem like it's indicative of a another game that's almost a repeat of last night's. Excuse me, close but higher scoring.
Next up, we got the Wild Kings, 870 bets. So one of the more heavily bet games that we have looked at so far in the NHL market. I think it is the most bet game now that I'm looking at it. The Los Angeles Kings open at plus 103. They've been bet up to plus 126. 33% of bettors and 28% of the money is on that.
That's a lateral movement there, 116 to 140 with most of the money. So they are incentivizing the Kings because they are not receiving the backing that perhaps they once thought with the opening line of plus 103. So that makes sense.
And then the OU open at 5.5, still at 5.5. Juice has shifted towards the over from plus 102 to minus 104. 48% of bets, 54% of the money is on the over for this Wild Kings game.
See, things make sense. There's a little bit more money in the over. Therefore, they incentivize you a little bit more to bet the under. This makes sense, and this is probably one of their strongest lines as far as equilibrium is concerned, but they don't always want to achieve that. That's what we're trying to look for, is the book, even though they could balance a lot of the time, sometimes they don't mind taking exposure because there's added expected value at the cost of variance, but they have a huge bankroll, and they don't mind rolling the dice once in a while, just like us punters here.
And then the puck line for this game has stayed the same. The juice has moved in the Wild's favor from plus 213 to plus 201 to win by 2 or more.
2 or more goals. Yeah, we don't have the bet percentage monies, but the volume or the money allotted, but we can infer probably from the money line that it's probably pretty close. So it is more than likely a lateral movement.
491 bets on the final game of the night, Ducks Golden Knights. The Golden Knights open minus 209, bet up to minus 224, despite only receiving 56% of bets and 53% of the money.
Slightly more dollars per person on the Ducks, but there is more money, so they're going to incentivize betting the Ducks by adjusting the price. This is also lateral, much like the Wild Kings game.
And then the OU for this game, it opened at 6, still at 6. The juice has moved slightly on the over, just adjusting that juice closer to equilibrium. 30% of the bets have been placed on the under, and 65% of the money has been placed on the under in the Golden Knights game.
Interesting stuff here. Very interesting, because wouldn't you want to do that opening juice? Like, I guess maybe it makes sense that you drop at 1 point to incentivize the over because you are getting money on the under. But you want to see how this market matures. Only 491 bets. But it looks like they're taking exposure on the under so far. We'll see how many bets this ends up closing with.
And Golden Knights to win by 2 or more, plus 117, bet down to plus 116, 98% of bets on the Golden Knights to win by 2 or more.
Yeah, that's I guess that makes sense, but they're heavily weighted. Perhaps the puck line is very sparsely bet, and I think that's a possibility considering how low this handle is at 491. I think it's the lowest next to the Canucks. Regardless, it is below 500 bets, so they are. It's the market's so new that you can take some of these early positions, and then expect that the betting public is probably going to fill up on a certain side at a certain percentage. They're usually kind of good at that thing, despite this being the first game of the season for both of these teams.
That's it for the NHL betting market for January 14th. Good luck in your guys' wagers for today.